Hello, cozy detectives, and welcome to the Blanket Fort Files. I'm Joy,
And I'm Larissa.
and we're here to report on all things comfy and cozy. If you are watching us, we have very fun outfits going on. But before we get to that, Larissa, how's it going?
Hi, Joy. How are you?
Good, good. I have not had a headache and a migraine in a week.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. You haven't gotten to test the ice pack
Not
out.
yet. You know what? I'm not sad about it. I'm
Yeah,
just going
we'll
with it,
take it. We'll take
right?
a win is a win.
100%. A win is a win.
I know. I always hear that little audio in the back of my mind.
Same. How are you? What's been going on with your week?
Well, I obviously we're recording this before this releases, but my birthday was yesterday.
Yay!
So I had a really fun night with my friends. We just went out to dinner, and had cake, and it was really fun. Yeah.
Oh, yay. So fun. Do you like the people sing to you side of
No,
birthday?
I very much was like, we y'all are not singing. We're not doing that. And then one of my friends was like, what if we whisper sing? And I'm like, no, we're not even doing that. And then another friend was like, well, we could do a birthday rap. And I was like, okay, I am kind of intrigued by that. But then they chickened out and didn't do a birthday rap. So,
Oh,
but it was funny because when we did the cake, we did it outside, and it was so windy yesterday that we weren't able to really light the candles because
aw.
every time we would light them, the wind would just whoosh. So it was fine that we didn't sing anyways because I just pretended to blow out the candles because it was so windy.
Aw, cute. What's your preferred birthday cake?
I don't know. I'm pretty down for anything. I didn't make my cake this year. Normally, if I do a birthday cake, I end up making it. And with just my Eating Gilmore project, I was kind of a little burnt out on
You've been cooking so much. It's
baking.
wild.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to treat myself and buy a cake. So I got one from Central Market. It was a German chocolate. It was really
Ooh.
good, but it was like super rich. And we had all had like a really big dinner right before too. Like we did appetizers and like,
Oh,
so we
fun.
were already pretty full by that point. So we all just had little pieces.
Aw, cute.
But I don't know if I have a favorite. I always have a really hard time picking favorites, which
Hmm.
we'll get into our theme for this week, but it was definitely hard picking a favorite.
Right? Getting into the smallest bit. When you were a kid, did you have like, we got to do this, or like what was one of your favorite birthday memories as a kid?
Ooh, I think so for like the first kind of like 10 years, it was very much like we got like a whole planned birthday party, paid for everything. And then when we turned 10, we got to have like kind of our last big paid for one. It was like a sleepover, so everything. And then after that, we didn't really do like a big one. Like I could have like one friend over just to kind of save money. And then when I started to get a little older, I would start planning them myself, like especially in high school.
Fun.
So I think growing up, probably that sleepover was really fun. We like tie-dyed pillowcases.
Cute. I love that.
Yeah. And then actually also in 2019, I had a 90s themed birthday party at the roller skating rink, and we like all dressed up as like throwback and went roller skating. It was so much fun.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite like overall memories, I would say. Like one of the ones that very much stick out in my mind from when I was a kid is like going to the roller rink, and then
Hmm.
also I did classes.
Oh my gosh, shut up. That's so
So
cute.
I was like there and my like I remember when I like quote unquote in my mind anyway upgraded to inline skates,
Oh,
and I was
yeah.
like, I'm living La Vida Loca here. Like I'm living the life.
Yeah, you were like a little professional.
I mean, honestly, it like I was. If you had asked me, I would have been like, yeah, I'm a professional. And then I would do a little like it's like a small circle. I would just go in a circle for a hot minute. And then I would go over to like their like mini little arcade thing that they had in there.
Mhm.
And I'd be like, give me these tickets. I gotta get this
Oh my gosh,
random
the
plush.
tickets.
Or like
Yes.
the erasers.
Yeah, with the little shapes and like food,
Yeah.
even though they didn't actually work to erase, but they
No.
were really
They
cute.
were aesthetic.
Yeah, you mentioned like the arcade. We had one with like the mini golf, like the putt putt.
Cute.
That was always fun. What about you? What was your favorite birthday as a kid?
I have a specific memory of a birthday at a pizza, like, place.
Iconic. Was it like a Chuck E. Cheese?
No, I've actually never been to Chuck E. Cheese. It kinda creeped me out, which,
Yeah,
looking back, I'm
yeah.
like, "You know what? Good job, little Joy."
That was a good decision.
Yeah. Plus, to be fair, we'd had to drive to one because there wasn't one in our area. There
Yeah.
was, like, a knockoff version. Well, not like there wasn't, like, some creepy rat running around or nothing. It was just like this is just like a pizza place. But I remember that, and I remember my grandpa, what he did was he was like grandpa by like not blood, but just like by being in my life. They were a very, very sweet couple. What they did is because it was also the era of the Beanie Baby.
Oh, so good.
So they did the thing that every once in a while someone will do, and they just kept wrapping a box and a box and a box and a box and a box.
Oh,
And then I would
yeah.
have like one Beanie Baby, and I'd be like, I'm over this.
Yeah, and you had to
But
work so hard to get it.
yes.
That reminds me of the Birkin bag. If you're doing
Oh,
a bingo card, there you
yep,
go.
yep. I actually was thinking about that the other day of like, what would we put on the bingo? It'd be like Larissa mentions Gilmore Girls, Joy mentions Gilmore Girls.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Really, I think if we ever do end this, like, tally up how many references.
that would be good.
But yeah, speaking of being afraid of Chuck E. Cheese, you were really smart. I mean, this has been a couple years ago, but I've seen on YouTube where they have like old, because I don't know if you know, but they have like the animatronics that would come out like
Oh,
every like 30 minutes to like sing a song. And
ew! I
like,
did not know that.
yeah. Well, now they have like YouTube videos of like old broken ones that like glitch when it's so terrifying. It's like the stuff of nightmares. So
Oh my goodness.
probably
Ooh,
good that you
never had that.
missed that. Yeah.
Oh gosh, scary. Another thing like that is Disney. If you look back at like 1960s, like when Disney's first doing all, ooh, those are a little spoopy too. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Mickey's looking like he's seen better days then, but okay.
Oh
So
man.
we are dressed as our theme today, which is 90s moms, our top
Woo!
5 favorites. Woo woo. So we're
Yes.
both actually we don't plan what the outfits are going to be. We just show up and kind of surprise each other. And we both picked a jean button up, which is fantastic.
Yep.
Our hair is in hair clips because obviously I feel like every mom did that. Or oh, you remember those? Oh, I don't know the name of it
Oh, the
now.
banana clip?
Yes, that's what it's called. Yes, the banana clip would have been. I just was feeling like my hair kind of looks a little banana clip esque, but it's a clip. And then I've got some corduroy going on my collar and on my sleeves, and it's like
Yeah.
a little puffy. I'm pretty sure this top is from the 90s.
Love
I got it
it.
at a thrift store, and I just felt at one of my moms. I was trying to do some research on her, and I was watching the episode 1 of the show, and I saw her
Ooh,
wear something, and I was like, "Yeah,
gotta do
I know what
it.
I'm gonna wear." I
We
figured it
even
out.
we even kind of have a similar color scheme. So yeah,
Yeah,
we both have the denim and she has her corduroy. I have a Camp Walden from Parent Trap t-shirt
classic.
and we both have kind of like a tan creamy color scheme going
Yep.
on.
Both went with the red lipstick.
Yes, and then I attempted, so I have like curtain bangs, but I kind of
Love.
formed them into the 90s like wispy curled
Yeah.
hairspray bangs.
I feel like your 90s mom would totally listen to Shania Twain.
Oh yeah, I had a 90s mom anthem playlist going while I was getting ready.
Oh, I
So
should have done that. Fail.
now
Fail.
I'm in the zone. I'm ready. I'm so
That
ready.
and Celine.
Oh, that was
Oh
on
my
there.
gosh. Oh,
Yes. And
obsessed.
Jewel and yeah,
Yes. Oh
so
my
good.
goodness. My lipstick last summer over on just like my personal Instagram, my personal slash business. I don't know how to say that. I was looking up very specific 90s moms, like from the era colors. Heather Shimmer, which is
Ooh.
what I have on currently. It is
You're
from
being super
Rimmel.
authentic.
In theory, I'm guessing this is not the exact formula that it would have
Yeah,
been in the 90s, but I love it.
pretty
And it's just
close.
like that little bit of that sheen that I feel like started in the 90s and then really exploded in the 2000s. So
Yes, we were
I
super
am.
glittery back then. That reminds me, so I don't watch a lot of reality TV shows, especially like dating shows, but one of my guilty pleasures is Love is Blind.
Oh,
I don't know if you watched that one.
I did like the first season at the very least, but I haven't kept up with it. I've heard this season was dramatic though.
Super. It was so good. But this most recent season, they just had their reunion a couple weeks ago, and one of the characters, she's kind of been the villain of this season, but she showed up looking straight up like 2004 prom. Like she had the body glitter, this hot pink dress. Her hair was all like super like Mary Kate and Ashley. It was
Whoa.
bizarre, which
Whoa.
also reminded me when we talked a little bit when we first hopped on before we started recording, and I was like, I have to remember to talk about this. I So neither of us bought anything for our looks. Like this is all just stuff we already own because we very much live in the 90s mom aesthetic regularly. I thought about ordering one of those fake hair scrunchies
Yes.
that I like blocked out of my mind because now I'm like, that's so cringe. But back then, when I wore one, I thought I was so cool.
Oh, love it. I know, right? I feel like I forgot about the body glitter side of things. That was, again, a little more 2000s, but ooh, I was big on that. I thought I was like living. I was a full grown adult if I like just coated myself in Dollar Tree glitter.
Yeah, I recently saw on TikTok someone like went through like their old childhood room and found old school Bath and Body Works products like
Yes.
with the original packaging, like the
Oh my
cucumber
God.
melon. I
Yes,
just
100%.
unlocked a memory there, didn't I?
Yes. I know my mall as a kid didn't have too much, but we definitely had a Bath and Body, and I loved it. I would like go in there and smell everything, and it's funny because now I don't know if it's because we're older or because of what, but I can't like just like smell as many things as I did as a kid. I would
Yeah, I'll
just
get a
like
headache.
overdo. Yeah, but yes, that and then Claire's and icing. Was that?
Mhm.
Did you have icing in your area?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I remember
Did
that.
you I know we might do an episode on this, but do you know what the difference was between Claire's and icing? Is it just the same like it was I know it was owned by the same
Yeah.
company, but do you know like what the difference was? Icing supposed to be like older kids?
I think so. The thing that I remember about icing is they had like a 10 for 10 deal. So
Mm,
I have a feeling that because it was so close in like branding, like almost like a little limited two esque, where like that was owned by like the limited, which we still have as like an adult brand, but the
mhm.
kids brand, it like spiked in popularity and then like died. So I have a feeling this is just from my own personal experience, but I have a feeling icing probably did that too because it came in and it was really popular, but only for like a second. And then like everybody
Yeah,
would still just go to Claire's. Like, why would
right.
I walk over here and look at the same store?
Right. We actually our local Walmart still has a Claire's inside it.
Me too. I feel like that's where they moved. I don't know. Like,
Probably. Yeah, maybe
are
they
they
got
in
bought
malls?
out. I don't know. But I do just kind of talking about the 90s and like things we like to do back then. Like, obviously, like going to the mall with my friends was a top activity. Even as a kid, like, I don't know, there's just something so fun and cool about the mall.
You felt older. You're like, I could walk anywhere in this mall.
Right. And then, like, your mom could give you like a little bit of allowance. And then you're like, I'm on my own. I have money. I'm going shopping. And then you could
Yeah.
get like one thing.
Yep. Yep, 100%. That or the combo of first you go to the movie theater and then you go to the mall.
Ooh, elite. And you
Elite.
get a little icy.
Oh, nice. We had an ice cream parlor next to
Ooh,
ours. So it
that's
was like
fun.
a little scoop of ice cream and then we'd all walk over.
Love that.
That was so fun. So getting a little bit into our theme, the way that we're going to do this is different because we're going to do a top 5 list, but we're going to almost go back and forth because we have not compared lists. So we have a feeling that some of the 90s moms are going to overlap between the two of us. So we're not going to, whoever is talking about their favorite 90s mom from 5 up to 1, that person is the person that gets to talk mainly. And then if one of the others, it'll make sense when we do it. But if the other person has it on their list, then we're going to kind of just say where she is and then discuss her more when we get to that number. So,
Totally.
Larissa, to get into it, who is your 5th top 90s mom?
For my number 5, and again, like this was hard
Yeah.
to come up with a list and put them in order.
Yeah.
And I know we've talked about this kind of through text and when we were doing our research. I could think of a lot more 90s dads than I could with 90s moms. So when this episode releases, it will be just after Mother's Day. So that's kind of why we're doing this 90s mom theme. And then when we do Father's Day next month, we'll finally get to dive into our 90s
Yes.
dads. But for my number five, I don't know if this technically counts because she's from a movie. A lot of mine, I feel like I'm kind of stretching the rules. And we'll
No,
get
go
into
for it.
that. So the mom itself isn't a 90s mom. Like she doesn't have that 90s aesthetic, but the movie came out in the 90s. So I'm going to count it.
Ooh, yeah, counts.
Also, side note with our whole Gilmore Girls thing, the rule is they had to have appeared in the 90s. So
Yeah.
Lorelai will not be on either of our lists. She's very exclusively an early 2000s mom. Just wanted to put that caveat out
Yes,
there.
because that would be like the number one comment is where is Lorelai? We know. We did the
Right.
research. There was a couple movies that I looked up too, and it was like happenstance more for like the dads because I just started diving into all of it, and it would be
Mm-hmm.
like came out in 2000, and I'd be like, no.
Right. So tough. There's so many like good early 2000s moms, which we'll do an episode on that.
Yes.
But anyway, so my number five is Mrs. Gump from the movie Forrest Gump.
Oh, intrigue. Okay,
Yeah.
there's gonna be a lot of these. I'm really excited that you're doing movies because mine are basically all TV shows.
Oh, okay. I have a couple movies, but the majority of mine are also TV shows too.
Ooh, exciting. Okay, I don't know anything about. I've never seen Forrest Gump.
Oh, okay. So Mrs. Gump is played by Sally Fields, the mom,
Mm.
and the main character, Forrest Gump, is played by Tom Hanks. And essentially, the movie kind of follows his life. He's from Alabama. He was born in, I'm not sure if it was the 40s or the 50s, but he was born in Alabama, like in the deep South, and it just kind of follows his life. And he's disabled. He like has to wear, when he's a kid, he has to wear leg braces. And he gets teased a lot for that. It's never really said because again, this movie came out in the 90s, so it was a different time. But basically, he has a lower IQ than most people did. So that's kind of
Yeah.
the focus of the movie. But essentially, it just follows his life. And he always just is like in the right place at the right time for different moments in history. And
Oh, really? That's hilarious.
it's kind of just funny because they essentially, for a lot of the footage, they take like real life historical footage and then edited in Tom Hanks
Oh my
into
gosh, I
that
love
footage.
that.
So like they have a moment where he meets I can't remember which like president it was because it's been a while since I've seen this movie, but they have like Tom Hanks meeting the
Oh,
real life
that's so funny.
president.
Does it so kind of connecting that to actually your shirt, we both I mean, I think we pretty much every once in a while have this on repeat, but the Camp Walden scenes, I feel like hold up so like wildly well. Like
Yeah.
nowadays I'd be impressed with that type of CGI. Is it like Tom Hanks is just like this weird little cutout in it? Or
No,
do
it
you feel
actually
like
it looks pretty realistic.
mm,
And there's even they have a scene so he like shakes hands with him and
oh,
it looks pretty good. I'll have to look it up and we'll edit it back in of which president it was because I'm totally blanking and people are probably like yelling at me for who it was.
I
But
believe you, whatever you said.
he said like the president says something in the footage but they had someone like dub over it but it looks like his whatever he's saying in the real footage is what he's saying in the movie, like they were able to dub it really well.
Whoa.
So that yeah, it's I think the technology was pretty good for sure.
Nice. And then how does he go to his mom a lot for like advice or
Yeah. So she's a single mom, taking care of him. And so I picked her because she is so kind and patient with him. And obviously, like, as a disabled child, like she's super protective of him. I really like that she doesn't make him feel othered. Like, even though he's bullied, like she always makes him feel like he's super important and he's just like every other kid. And then this is a little bit more of kind of an adult topic, but there's a couple of scenes where she sleeps with other people in the town to get money so that they can like keep their house and everything, which
oh,
so that yeah, it's a little bit heavier of a topic, but to me that even though it was stuff that she didn't necessarily want to do, like she was very determined to make sure to take care of him. And so I really like her as a character and as a mom. Like she just like her son was number one always, and I found her to be a really like lovable, kind mom. And I think a lot of times in movies, especially from that time, like you just had moms that were kind of like checked out or had other things going on because again, it wasn't set in the 90s, but she was just like number one in his life, if that makes sense.
So it was set in like the 60s?
So it kind of is a whole stretch. So
Hmm.
it starts with his childhood and like the I want to say like the early 50s, and then it follows him into becoming an adult because he gets drafted in the Vietnam War.
Oh.
And then so it follows him kind of into his adult life, and then in the 70s, so he's like part of different like political things going on, and then like kind of in the 80s it cuts to
Oh.
that, and then it does have a little bit at the very end, it does end like in the 90s. So we get there eventually, but so yeah, it's kind of essentially the whole like second half of the 20th century
Oh,
basically.
interesting. Oh,
Yeah.
that is so interesting. Yay.
Yeah.
I do not have her on my list because I've
All
never seen
right.
it.
I'm
Okay.
excited to hear what your first one, number five, is.
Yes. This was my first four, honestly, like numbers 1 through 4, really just like were like boom, 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 boom. And then when I
Hmm.
got to the fifth, this is where I found like I was looking up like top 90s movies, like
Right.
90s DComs, all of these things. I was trying to find like, I don't think I could swap them with the fifth, but I have some funny, different honorable mentions
Oh,
that we'll
me
go through
too.
later. The fifth one that I picked though was Aunt Viv or Vivian Banks from Fresh Prince of Bel Air.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
Right? I It was very interesting too because I have, well, I don't want to spoil anything, but this character was split between two actresses, but
Hmm.
it was like directly split. So the first actress was the first 3 seasons, and the second actress was the second 3 seasons, or you know what I mean? First through 1 through 3, and then 4 through 6. So this character really was, I would say, like, it was very interesting because she does raise some kids that are maybe a little bit more not as deep, maybe to say, but you can
Hmm.
tell she really does care about her kids,
Hmm.
and she's willing to take in her nephew, which
Yeah.
in and of itself is a huge thing because like we in the opening it talks about like, so my mom sent me, and it's to Bel Air, which is like a wild place to live. I always loved the set because there's like the living room area, and then
Hmm.
they have that. When I was looking up different 90s things, they have the staircase that goes up, and then they have like it's a very iconic 90s house.
Yeah.
And it's her and her husband, and I mean, they've raised 3 kids. They do have the butler as well, who's like really sweet. There's a lot of like characters like that in the moms that I'll walk through, where like
Hmm.
it's like a next door neighbor, or they have like somebody that's like helping them, which I actually really appreciated, like the different generations in that and the different like perspectives in that and things like
Hmm.
that. But she is my fifth mom,
I
Vivian Banks,
love
or
that.
Aunt Viv.
I love that. I almost picked her because, yeah, she was coming up on a lot of lists too. I have not seen Fresh Prince all the way through. Like, I've definitely seen a lot of
Hmm.
episodes, but that wasn't one that I saw. I think kind of growing up, there was a lot that like my parents considered like to be older shows that I
Oh,
just
yeah.
couldn't. And I think that was kind of lumped in that this is like
Gotcha.
older. And so kind of when I got to the age where I would watch it, it wasn't on anymore. But
Yeah.
from the stuff that I have seen, I really, really enjoyed. I think Will Smith is a very talented actor.
For me, it was anything that was like, if it was on Disney, if it was on Nickelodeon, if it was on like a PBS or like a Nick at Night style, any
Yeah.
of those were pretty much free reign for me as a kid. So I watched like a lot of this show. I definitely have the first Aunt Viv is more of the Aunt Viv that I know of in my mind,
Hmm.
because I think like when she changed, I'm not great with continually following a storyline if they change one of the main characters. Like it really just messes with me
Right.
because I'm like, this is not the same person, and
I
you're just
get that.
pretending that it is. Like if
Yeah.
it's like in the first season or the first like a pilot episode to the real series, like that's all fine. But like, I mean, another bingo card is like if in like season 4 they were like, and this is Suki, it'd be like, meh.
Right, they switch it to Alex Borstein like it was originally supposed to be. Oh, yeah.
Right? It would just feel different. It's such a different
Mhm.
character, and you have to like connect with that character again and kind of like vibe with them. And I didn't, personally, I didn't quite do that with the second Viv. So the seasons 1 through 3 are the ones that I know very well. And then
Mhm.
after that, I don't really know them that well.
That's fair.
Okay. Who is your number
Ooh,
4?
really quickly
Yeah.
though, I think you kind of touched on this, but like, why personally did you pick her as your number 5?
I felt that she did care about her kids. And I feel like kind of similar to what you were saying is before this, one of my, it's really hard not to like spoil the other ones because it kind of
Yes.
does connect. But one of the characters that I have in here was very specific about her character being a person. And I really
Mm.
appreciated that because I didn't watch a lot of TV or anything like that in the 80s, or I haven't since. So I'm not exactly sure if this is right, but from the way that the actress has described her character, again, this is a different mom, but I think this connects
Mhm.
over, is that a lot of the moms in TV shows specifically before that, where they're just kind of as like a prop for the
Mhm.
kids, or were there to kind of just help move along their story, but didn't really have her own storyline, kind of
Yes.
wasn't necessarily her own person. And so the 1 through 5 that I picked, a large reason that I picked each of these is because they are their own character.
Yeah.
And now you can have things that you like or don't like about the character, but that's another aspect of it where in every person, there's things that like they can maybe improve upon or things that like you can emulate from them or
Yeah,
things
they
like
have like
that.
real flaws.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Like are more real people than just a caricature of what a quote unquote mom would be. Like
Mhm.
we talked last week about the is it Mary Tyler Moore show was the one that,
Yeah, with Nancy
or
Myers.
Nancy Myers, maybe that was a couple
Yeah,
weeks ago.
well, yeah, because Nancy was inspired by her.
Yeah, yeah, which I like, but I also watched that show. And I feel like that character was such like an idolized version of a
Yes.
mom. Whereas these women, I like that they have like maybe their own jobs or their own interests, or I appreciate seeing like not quote unquote large, wild arguments because again, we do want to have a little bit of that escapism in TV,
Mhm.
but seeing them interact with their husbands or seeing them interact with their children or like her nephew, I appreciate the layers that are in,
Yes. Yeah, that's a good word for it.
much like Shrek.
Uh, we keep maybe Shrek will be bingo too, because we've mentioned them a few times. But speaking of bingo, that you kind of describing like in the older TV, that like Donna Reed that
Yes.
they talk about of how she's
Yeah.
very much like kind of a caricature of a mom. So yeah, I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. I think that comes across on a lot of mine too, are those, layers.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving into my number 4, I have Claire Huxtable from the Cosby Show, and we kind of discussed this ahead of time. Kind of, we're going to put a disclaimer. We're very much separating this, pulling out
Yeah.
of relationship to Bill Cosby and all of that. We're very not supportive of him. He's horrible. But I didn't want to keep Claire off the list because I do think she's such a good mom. I don't think it would be fair to disclude her just because she worked on a show with someone who she probably didn't even know that was going on.
Yeah.
But I think for a lot of us that grew up in the 90s, she was definitely a really good role model for a lot of us. She was super intelligent. She was really driven. She wanted to advance in her career. But she was also still a very supportive and caring mom. And I think, there's definitely like a balance with this of that working mom, and especially in the 90s, of like, oh, well, you have to do it all. Like you have to have a really successful career, but also be like the best, like super mom.
Yeah, because that's
Um,
also unrealistic.
right, exactly. But I think with Claire Huxtable, like I feel like had a really good balance between the two. Like I think, and that definitely was part of it, of that struggle and balancing between being a career woman, but also being a mom. And I think she balanced those super well.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. She's one of my honorable mentions.
Oh, good.
I really
Yeah.
like her. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just I watched that show some, but that was kind of a if it happened to be on, like I wasn't like I have to watch this show.
That makes sense.
My fourth is Lisa Landry from Sister Sister.
Ooh, love her. She's actually one of my honorable mentions.
Oh, nice. I like that so far we haven't had the exact same person or like in the exact same area.
Right.
She is the inspiration for this outfit because
Amazing.
the thing that was going to separate her from either being potentially an honorable mention or on the list I could not remember if she knew that the sisters were sisters, if that makes sense. So
Mhm.
like in The Parent Trap, obviously we do love that mom, but she did not make it to my list because
Same.
she knew that she separated her kids.
Right,
Like,
right. That's not a good mom.
right? And I wasn't sure if like I couldn't remember. So basically the plot of Sister Sister is these two sisters are separated. The mom of the show, Lisa Landry, who was played by Jacqueline Yvonne Harry. I
Mhm.
might be saying her name wrong. The Yvonne, the Y and the V mess with my brain. But she is the mom of one of the sisters, and then they go to a mall store, and the dad of the other sister is there, and they're both looking at things. And it's very cute. It's very 90s. It's a little cringe because like both girls are asking. I watched the first episode to figure this out, but both girls are asking for like different sweaters or a pullover or something like that, and they're just like accidentally messing with this guy at the
Yeah.
store. He has no idea. But in my mind, if the mom and the dad had known they were separating sisters, I'm like, I don't know if that particularly makes the best mom, but they didn't. They didn't know.
Yeah, because they were adopted.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yep. And even in the first episode, it's funny because she's very vivacious, I feel like is
Yes.
the word.
Yeah, I put
And
eccentric on in my honorable mention notes.
yes, yes. But I loved it because she's like just wears like the funnest outfits, and
Yeah.
she has her own like one of the things I love about her too is that she's got Fashions by Lisa.
Yes.
Right. So she has her own like thing that she's doing. She's very
Mhm.
quirky. She's a very 90s mom in just like the colors and vibes and aesthetic of things.
Mhm.
But her and the dad, they go to the adoption agency and she like reams them out. Like, why did you separate girls?
Right.
And it's funny because we don't really see that. We see them coming back from that. And he's like, do you always get kicked out of places? Because she keeps getting him kicked out of like these different locations because
Yeah.
she's just like arguing with everybody about things. So
Mhm.
she's like, she very much so will back her girl, like, and then
Yeah.
girls once she knows. But like, she is there for them. She really cares. It's really funny because I couldn't remember how they got into the same house, but in the first episode, again, apartment in the area that she lives in for whatever reason is she can't live there anymore. So she moves
Mhm.
in with the dad. So I kind of like the interesting dynamics of that as well.
Mhm.
Of like they're in the same house, but they're not a couple, and he's very wealthy and she's not. He makes like a joke about that, about like I don't remember exactly what the joke is, but it was something about like the financial difference between the two of them. So that
Mhm.
there's that dynamic in it too. They've got the neighbor Roger. That was like the first name that came back to me when I was trying to think of 90s
Oh
moms.
my
It was like Go
gosh.
Home Roger. I was like,
Yeah. Go
love,
home, Roger.
love it, love it. So
Yeah.
Lisa Landry is my fourth favorite 90s mom.
Yeah, I guess I can talk a little bit about because she's just an honorable mention for me. Basically, the reason she didn't make the top five, just I had too many, so she was like
Yeah.
she'd probably been number six. So yeah, don't have anything against her. Love, love, love her.
Yeah.
But also, kind of would add with that same dynamic. I think just also their parenting styles too. Like it's Ray. Ray is the
Yeah.
dad.
Mm-hmm.
He's like obviously really strict
Yep.
and firm, and she's a little bit more like laid back and fun, like eccentric, kind of
Mm-hmm.
vivacious. But then their daughters kind of have the opposite personality, right? Like his
Yeah.
is like really kind of free spirited, and then
Mm-hmm.
hers is like very studious. So I also just love the dynamic of the four of them too.
Yes, very much so. And it's kind of that I don't know as many books with this because you're more of a reader than I am, but I always think of like the sunshine and the grumpy. That's kind of
Hmm.
their dynamic too,
Yeah.
which is nice. I like that.
For sure, for sure. Okay, so my number three. Oh, and I realized I didn't say the actress for Claire Huxtable when I did mine, and that's played by Felicia Rashad, is I think how you pronounce
Yeah.
that. But my number three is Amy Matthews from Boy Meets World,
Oh, nice.
and she is played by Betsy Randall. She was on a list, almost every list I saw of top 90s moms. I really liked her just as a mom to her three kids, Corey, Eric, and Morgan, but kind of the same reason that you put Aunt Viv on yours is
Hmm.
kind of how of a good mom she was to Sean, Corey's
Yeah.
friend. Like he didn't really have good parents. They were very absent, and she essentially took them in. She took Sean in as kind of like her own. It really didn't matter if you were her child or not. Like she was going to take care of you. I really like that she was stern and had like good lessons. Like I think that was something very much of the 90s is there was always like a
Yeah.
lesson in the episode, especially
Yeah.
like Full House. Um, but I think she was firm when she needed to be, but she was also just like really supportive and kind. All of his friends, like even Topanga, like when they had that like situation where her parents were going to move and she like wanted to stay with Corey, like I don't know, Amy was just super supportive. And like there were times where she was a little skeptical, especially like when they
Yeah.
got married super young.
Yeah.
But I think again that she was a real character. Like she had
Yeah.
her flaws, she had her own opinions, and she had some pretty cute clothes too. Like she had that kind of like fun, not quite a pixie, but like kind of shorter
Mhm.
hair that was kind of big in the 90s too. So I also just kind of liked her vibes.
Yes, very much so. She is on my list as well.
Ooh, love it. Love it.
She's not my number 3 though. So I will
Ooh, a little
I
higher.
know. So I will talk about her in a second and just give like a couple extras because everything that you said is very similar to why I picked her as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So my number 3 is Harriet Winslow from Family Matters.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked that show now again, unfortunately, but I did not love the character of Urkel, and I know that he's meant to be
Mm-hmm.
annoying,
Right.
but I feel like the show just really focused hard on him.
Yeah, and I feel like in a lot of sitcoms, there's kind of the like comedic relief in everything. And like in the later seasons, they just become this caricature. Like
Yes.
kind of with the Boy Meets World, like with Eric, like
Yep.
he's kind of like the dumber one in the earlier seasons, and then they just make him like unbelievably unintelligent
Yes.
in the later seasons. Like no one acts like that. And I feel like with Urkel, he
Yeah.
was kind of annoying in the first couple seasons,
Yeah.
and then they just took it too far.
At one point, he like becomes Elvis. What? What is happening? What
Yeah.
shark are we jumping right now?
Yeah,
Like,
but also kind of reminding me when you mentioned Roger, that same like annoying neighbor character
yeah.
that reminded me. But I feel like Roger is a little more level. Like
Yeah.
Urkel had his moments, but again, he was just like so much of a caricature.
Yes, I agree that I feel like when he was younger and in the series, I guess looking at him be younger in the series, I appreciated his quirks and things like that more. But then
Mhm.
when he becomes older, it just like, why are you becoming Elvis or why are you becoming like a famous? I can't think of what his name is right now, but he's like a famous martial artist. It's like,
Mm,
why are you becoming these people in the show? It's kind of
yeah,
taking me
strange.
out of it. So
Mhm.
again, this character was played by 2 actresses as well,
Mhm.
which is wild. But the Harriet that I know was Joe Payton from the first 9 seasons. And this is the other thing. She
Wow.
was in 9 seasons. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, how am I supposed to just like this actress? Like, not like the actress, I think it was the last 3 seasons that was that
Mhm.
character. It's just, if you've loved a character for 9 seasons, like imagine after the full series of Gilmore Girls and add 2 more seasons and then you just change Lorelai. It's like, oh no. Like, I just would rather you be like, Lorelai boobs or something.
Yeah. But honestly, 9 seasons of any show, but especially a sitcom, like
Yes, yes. But she is awesome. She loves her kids. She's very like a very strong character. Like there's a scene where she stands up to her boss to the point where
mm,
she like he says something to her which is very very rude, but she lets it go. But then he's like
mhm,
really mean to a coworker and she's like, "Yeah, you know what? No, I'm not having this." And she stands up to him. She says, "You should apologize to everybody." He's like a new boss there. And
mhm.
she stands up to him to the point where she gets fired by him. But
Yeah.
then this is where I'm like, this is part of the thing that I love of the 90s is like it all works out in the end.
Yeah, we have to have our lesson.
Yeah, because he gets fired and then she gets his job like
Love
very
it.
quickly, like not 3 seasons, like 3 scenes later.
Yep.
But I just appreciate that she follows her moral compass to the point of being like, okay, like if you're gonna be mean to me, I can take that. But if you're gonna like belittle my team, you're gonna start like calling people names, like, nah, I'm out. Like you can't just do that. And she's
Mhm,
the one person in that boardroom that stands up to him as well. And that just shows like the strength of like who she is and how much
mhm,
she knows herself. And I really appreciated when she got home, it wasn't like her and her husband had an argument about like, why did you do that? He was like, well, you had to, obviously. And I just
mm,
really appreciate that relationship as well of like backing each other like that.
mhm.
So she is my number 3 90s mom. We're getting
Love
to the
it.
top
I
one.
know, top 2.
I'm so excited.
So my top 2 were back in the I don't know if this counts.
Oh,
So I I didn't have her this my number 2 on the list, and this is when I did have Lisa Landry in the top 5, but I did
Mm.
have to bump her down for this one. Because, and again, I don't know if this one
Oh, I'm
counts,
so excited.
but based on my vibe and my shirt, I had to put Chessie from The Parent Trap on there.
She's one of my honorable
I
mentions.
love it because while she is not technically a mom, she essentially is the mother figure to Hallie.
Absolutely.
So I had to put her on there because her 90s mom vibes are my favorite. Like I
Same.
live in this Chessie denim all of the time.
Yep.
And I could not leave her off of my list. I was like, I don't care if she's not technically a mom. She is a mom in my mind, so I'm putting her on there. And she is played by Lisa Ann Walter. And I put her on here because she, again, is essentially Hallie's mom. She's so caring of her, even though, her own mother just sent her off to live in California, doesn't even know her real mom exists. She stepped up and she became
Yeah.
her mom. She takes care of her. She makes great food all of the time. And I love that she lets Hallie kind of be her own person. And like, you can tell just based on their dynamic that she's not this like super strict, firm mother figure. Like, she's pretty laid back, but also is like, hey, like, why are you up super late on the phone? Like, that's okay. But also, like, let's just, we need our sleep. Like, I don't know. She
Yeah.
just has like a good balance of laid back, but still being firm when needed to.
Yeah. Very much. And was the first person to realize, hey, you're not the right person. Like,
Yeah, like she recognized that wasn't his daughter that he's lived with his whole life before her actual father did,
yeah.
which is wild. Yeah, she was the first one to figure it out, which I think also speaks to just how well she knows at least Hallie, but also that wasn't Hallie.
Yes.
I also love that she and Nick don't ever really have any sort of romantic connection that's ever
Yes.
implied. Like, it's very much like, we don't know for sure if she lives in that big house. I'm assuming so because it is so big and she's there all the time and like in the middle of the night. But there was never any like, oh, well, I have a crush on your father and he's
Yep.
now with Meredith. Like, that was never a thing. I just love
Which
that.
is so nice, honestly.
Yes, yeah. Like, it's not needed. Like, I just like when people of like two different like genders can exist without any romantic implications. Like,
Yes.
girls can have guy best friends and vice versa.
Yep.
And so plus I'm like, she just has a really sweet gig. Like, Hallie seems like a pretty chill kid to take care of. She gets to live in this super fancy winery. Like,
Yeah.
that's the
So
dream.
awesome. Oh, love it. I'm so glad that you put her on. I was
Yeah.
debating her. She's in one of my honorable mentions,
Mm-hmm.
but yes, I love her as a character. I love the like platonic friendship of her and the dad and how like she also like almost like friendship or almost like sibling vibes of like can poke at him too,
Mm-hmm.
which I appreciate because they're that
Right.
close that she can do that. And she's like so on board with the mom and yes, love her.
Yeah, I know. And she like, why is this like, young, like rich blonde woman? Like, what does she see in him? He just has his shirt tail out with his cereal bowl. Like, I
Yeah.
love how she roasts him too.
Yes, exactly.
Like you said,
Rose.
the sibling
Yeah.
fun. Oh, love it. What is your
Love
number
her.
2? I'm
My number
excited.
2 is Amy Matthews, Boy Meets World. So I
Yes.
love her as a mom. The only things that I will add, because I love her for all the same reasons that you said, I very much so appreciate. I phoned a friend on this because one of my
Ooh.
friends loves that show. Like that is like her Gilmore Girls of like rewatching. And I
Love
was like,
it.
why do you like her as a mom? And one thing that she pointed out that I very much so appreciated is that she parents each of her kids differently and
Mm-hmm.
like it's tuned into each of them differently, which is great. Like I think just shows like a great aspect of a mom because each kid is different. Like kind of talking about the your fifth mom. I don't know what her name
Mm-hmm.
was again.
She doesn't have a first name. We just call her Mrs. Gump.
Oh, gotcha. Mrs. Gump.
Yeah.
But how she's like tuned into him and like is very for him. I feel like Amy Matthews is very much so for each of her children
Yeah.
and then does have I I love that there's also like again the multi-generational aspect of things of their neighbor Mr. Feeney. Like he is one of the best characters and like best parents even though he's not.
Yeah.
He just
Yeah.
gives like the best advice.
Maybe he'll be in our 90s dad episode.
Right, right. I have another character like that coming up. So if you know, you know who's my potential top one. But she's even humble enough to go to him as well for advice. Like she doesn't like feel like she knows everything. And not that these other characters say that or anything like that, but I just
Mhm.
appreciate that they showed that aspect of her as well. So yes,
Agreed.
Amy Matthews is my number 2 mom.
Wow. I'm surprised. That's like really, like, obviously we had some overlaps and honorable mentions, but that was like our first one
Yeah.
in the top 5 that was the same.
Yeah.
I'm curious now with our number 1 because
I know.
you're kind of mentioning like a similar with Mr. Feeney kind of might make our top 1 the
Okay.
same. Maybe
That
we'll
makes
find
sense to
out.
me. Yeah, this was the first thing like, I was like, this is the number 1 mom. I like
Yes,
knew
this
that from
was
the start.
super easy. And
Yep.
again, mine's this might give it away too. Mine starts out not technically a mom, but she does end the movie as a mom.
Oh no, it's not the same.
Okay, wow. Now I'm really excited to find out who our number 1 is.
Ooh.
But mine is Miss Honey from Matilda.
Oh, I've never seen that.
Oh, okay, I'm gonna do a case file on that one because it is one of my favorite 90s kids movies. Do you know anything about it, like the premise or anything?
No. I just know there's a cake.
Yes. Okay. So just kind of like a brief breakdown of it. So Matilda is she's a girl. She gets adopted by the Wormwoods. So it's this family. They already have
Oh.
a son, and they're just essentially like the worst parents. Like they are awful. They're like scammy. Like the dad
Oh.
like sells used cars, but he like scams people, or they're just like awful people. And so they
Oh.
adopt this girl, Matilda, when she's a baby. But she finds out as she like starts to grow up that she actually has magical powers.
Okay. I did kind of get that vibe from it.
But yeah, I usually watch this like around Halloween every year.
Mm.
Because it's not like super like witchy, but she does kind of have these like witchy powers.
Mm.
So Matilda goes to school, and there's this head mistress, Mrs. Trunchbull, and she's like even worse than the parents. Like she's
Oh
just like
no.
should not be in education. Like she like hates children. She has in her office, it's called the Chokey, but it's where kids will like go to like timeout, and it's basically this like claustrophobic nightmare. It's just the tiny closet with like knives sticking out of it.
Uh,
Yeah, like it's just awful. But there's one teacher, and it's Matilda's teacher named Miss Honey, and she's just everything opposite of what all of the adults in Matilda's life have been. Like she's kind, sweet, warm, loving. And what I really like is because it's that big, like obviously kind of cartoony juxtaposition between her and Miss Trunchbull, but she just like is the epitome of a good teacher. Like she is so caring of all of her students. And so another thing about Matilda, she's very smart. Like she teaches herself to read when
mm.
she's like 2.
Whoa.
And like that's kind of her escape in this horrible house growing up. Like they try to force her to watch TV, and she'll just walk to the library with her little wagon and fill it up with books.
Cute.
I love it. I am gonna do a case file on this because it's just one of my favorite like nostalgic cozy movies.
Oh, cute. I'll have to watch it before that because then
Yeah,
if not, I'll just be like, oh, okay, okay.
right. I think you're gonna love it so much. But anyway, so Miss Honey notices like how smart Matilda is. Like she can do all this like really advanced math in her head, and so she
Oh.
tries to like push her ahead and like make her skip grades. But like her parents, the Wormwoods and the headmistress, like don't want that. They're like, no, we hate children, kind of thing.
Ew.
So I guess this does kind of spoil it, but why I picked her and why she does eventually become a mom is she does adopt Matilda at the end.
Cute. I like that.
Yeah, and she lives in the like perfect 90s little cottage core house,
Cute. I'm gonna
and
look it up.
it's so cute, and she wears those like long like floral 90s dresses that were really
Yes.
popular. Like I just everything about it. Like she's a good mom, a good teacher. She has the 90s
Oh,
vibes.
it's so cute. Is it the one with
It's
the little blue door?
yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness,
and
it's so cute.
they go at the very end, they, like, play hopscotch together and they roller skate because she also growing up, Miss Honey also didn't have a good mom, and so they kind of her and Matilda get to have
Mm.
that life together as mother and daughter that neither of them had before.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, I really enjoy it, and it's played by the actress, I don't know if this is pronounced right, but I think it's Embeth Davidtz is how you say that.
Mm.
And really quickly, I know I've kind of gone on with the premise, but just kind of a side note talking about moms in the 90s. So in real life, Matilda is played by the actress Mara Wilson. You might have seen her. I don't know if you ever watched Mrs. Doubtfire, but she plays the youngest of the
Oh,
three
yes.
kids in that.
Mhm.
But her real mom had cancer while they were filming this movie.
Oh, wow.
And her horrible dad is played by Danny DeVito.
Oh.
And his, at the time, real wife, Rhea Perlman. So they were married in the movie, but
Oh.
also married in real life. And Danny DeVito was also the director of the movie. So while Mara Wilson's mom was like in cancer treatment, they often like took care of her during the filming process. Like they
Oh,
would
that's
take
so
her
sweet.
home. Yeah, it was like they'd be essentially, even though they were awful parents in the movie, they were like really good parents to her in real life. Danny DeVito actually brought a tape when they wrapped up. They brought a tape of the movie to the hospital for her mom to see because she was really sick by that point, and she actually unfortunately passed away shortly after filming. So he wanted to make sure that she got to see her daughter in this movie before she passed.
Oh, wow. I
Yeah.
I very much so appreciate that behind the scenes because I'm sure in the movie it's just like a horrible character, and then learning just
Yeah.
like how sweet they actually were towards her is just like
Yeah.
such a nice little like redeeming arc
Right,
almost.
right. And
Oh.
it kind of makes it too of like, okay, yes, these people are awful, but it's just a movie, so you don't have to
Yes.
worry too much.
Just acting, it's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm excited for your number one.
This is a show that basically was my childhood.
Ooh, love it.
So, it is Jill Taylor from Tool Time. Yes,
Yeah.
Home
Yeah.
Improvement, but yes,
Yes. Yeah,
yes.
I saw her. I had seen quite a few episodes of that too, and she was on a lot of lists, but that wasn't a show that I had seen like
Mm,
a bunch of, so that's why she didn't make my list, but
nice.
I do get those vibes for sure.
I love her. I love the actress as well from everything that I've
Mhm.
like looked up. It's Patricia Richardson. She's fantastic from what I can tell. She had a really good relationship like on set. You can tell like the dynamics were really good. It was kind of like brother and sister vibes is what I get from
Mhm.
her and Tim the actor. But
Mhm.
Tim the character, I feel like I appreciate that she really like pushes him in a lot of good ways and challenges him with things. She, very similar to Amy Matthews, clues into each of the boys. So she has three boys. I don't think I've done any of the plots of things. I've just been like, you best know these shows. But
Hopefully.
basically, Jill Taylor is the mom on Home Improvement. She starts out as a stay-at-home mom, and then she also realizes, okay, the boys are at a certain age, they're kind of in middle school era. I'd like to go have a job. And
Yeah.
so they have the dynamics of that. There is another Mr. Feeney type character, which is Wilson, who is their next door neighbor, who, like, a little funny quirk about him is you never see the bottom of his face. You
Yeah.
always see, like, yes, like basically half of his nose, his eyes, and up, which is wild because at the very last episode, I think this was like a similar thing also with Friends, but they would come out and clap and bow at the end of each either
Mhm.
episode or season. I'm not quite sure. But the very last episode, Wilson comes out, and normally he'd hold a little fence like above his face because that's the joke is like he's the next door neighbor, so the fence is really high, so you can't see who he is, like meaning his face down. Like now the characters can see him, but it's just the audience that can't see him. But
Uh-huh.
he removes that at like the very. It's wild. I'm like, oh,
Wow.
your face is crazy.
What a reveal.
Right? I know. Just so used to seeing just like half his face, seeing his whole face, I was like, oh, this feels weird. I feel like I shouldn't be seeing this.
I'm not allowed.
Right? But I love her as a character. She's the actress that I was talking about earlier that said that she really wanted her character to be multi-layered and not just like, ah, mom. Like, I
Right.
feel like that happened a lot. And I appreciate this too because she's the mother of three very rambunctious boys. And if you know the show at all, Tim is known for like exploding everything, basically. He has like a home improvement show, but there's like a lot of times where you can't really tell, is he doing this to like prove a point, or is he just very, very clumsy
Mhm.
on the show itself? But then at home, he'll do things that are very clumsy. And so, like, her patience with that, I think, is amazing. And then also, like, their relationship, because you can tell that they really love each other and that they are in it together, and they're in it for the boys and in it for their relationship. And then they'll like go on dates or they'll do things like that. And I think they have a good level. I can't quite remember this from the other characters, but they'll even do things like small, like on screen kisses and things like that, which I felt like was
Mhm.
so not a thing. Like going back to the Mary Tyler Moore show, like they're in separate beds.
Right.
Like, you're like, you're my weird roommate because we're on TV. So I just appreciate the love between the two of them as well,
Mhm.
and you can tell they're really for each other, and the like sacrifices that they make back and forth, and then her character arc in general, and learning things, and then seeing her with the boys as they grow up. That's really cool. And then it's just, I just love her character. Like there's not a particular thing, which I'm sure is somewhere in her character, but there's not like a particular thing where I'm like, oh, I really don't like that. Which
Mhm.
I feel like, even though she has flaws, I appreciate that they blend them in very well as that, like that full fledged character.
Right.
Which is why I basically picked all of the moms on this list, because they're their own people, as well as the mom on the
Mhm.
show, as well as the majority of them, I think, are the wives on the show. So yes, I love them.
Love it. Oh, that's so
Yay!
cute. Yay, we did it.
We did it. Wait, did you not say any of your honorable mentions?
Yes. I we kind of alluded to this one, the Elizabeth James from Parent Trap. Um, Obviously, like she's the pinnacle of vibes, but
Yeah.
again, not a good mom. But one that we haven't mentioned at all, and this was two, but they were from the same show. But I also had Dee Dee Pickles and Betty DeVille from the Rugrats.
Oh, I didn't really watch the Rugrats much, so I
Oh,
don't.
yeah, that was like my cartoon growing up.
Oh,
And I essentially didn't pick them mostly because they were cartoons, but I do think that they're really good moms. So like they both have two kids. Dee Dee is and another reason why I didn't pick her is because she is very much like just a mom and like that's her character, but also it's a cartoon. So there a lot of
yeah,
the times they're kind of one note. But she is a really good mom. Like she always like reading like parenting books and like
cute.
quoting parenting experts. Like you can tell she really cares and wants to be a good mom. And then Betty DeVille is very much like the opposite. Like she's still a very good mom. She has twins, Phil and
Mm.
Lil.
Oh yes, yes, yes.
Um, but she, I feel like, was kind of like us growing up, like as kids in the 90s. I think kind of like our first like feminist icon that we had.
Oh,
Like she was very, like she, like her, because you know in cartoons they wear the same outfit.
yeah.
Her like sweatshirt had like a feminist like logo on it. And she was just very much like women power and was just kind of like very kind of like loud and could be like kind of abrasive at times. But I think just as kids, like when we saw like women, especially in like cartoons, like they were
Yeah.
very one note and she was very different than most moms we got to see, but was still very much a very good mom, like to her twins and like took care of them. Um, and like I like their dynamic too because her husband was kind of more of like a kind of like a squirrely, like nerdy
Was he the
guy.
one with
When
like this hair, like the like spiky out hair?
yeah, they all
Yeah.
had kind of had weird hair
Okay.
for sure.
I'm trying to remember who's
Um,
who.
yeah, so like she in their dynamic, like she was very much more of like the loud extroverted and he was kind of like the quiet dad, and I feel like that dynamic you never saw a whole lot in like kids
Mm.
stuff. And then also there was another mom, um I think her name was Charlotte, but she was Angelica's mom, and she was very much career woman. Like kind of her thing was she was on the like a business call like every time you saw her, and she
Oh.
always wore a suit. So I feel like with all of the different moms that we saw, in that we just kind of got like different types of moms than you would kind of all being the same kind of character a lot of times in those shows.
Nice. I like it. I like it. I like it. So a few of my honorable mentions
Yes.
was one, the mom from Father of the Bride. I actually really do like her character,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know, she just didn't quite make the list. And
Mm-hmm.
then speaking of cartoons, I have two cartoon moms,
Love it.
and I don't even know their names, so like I have it written down so funny. It's the Tarzan monkey mom.
Oh, yes, that's
I
a
thought
good
she was
one.
so
Did that
good.
one come out in the 90s or was that a
I don't know.
2000?
That's why like I was like, okay, honorable mentions. I'm just throwing everything that I think. I'm not
But
even.
that's so good. Oh, I love it.
And then I do know this was the 90s. Is Simba's mom from
Oh,
The Lion King? I
yeah.
thought she like. I mean, she ends up being a single
Yeah,
mom, and she's got to figure
right.
this out with her kiddo.
Yeah,
So that's
those are
funny.
good
That and
picks.
Chessie, but we already talked about Chessie.
Yeah.
She's fantastic.
Love it.
Oh,
Oh,
so good.
so many good
Okay. I
moms.
can't believe we like only had one mom crossover. I think that's fantastic.
I know.
Oh,
That yeah, I really was expecting us to have almost
I
identical
was
lists. So
too.
it's kind of fun that they were so different
Yeah.
for sure.
So what was your 2% cozier this week?
Yeah, so I did a little craft. I feel like a lot of mine are going to be end up being crafts. But I made my sister and I made them these little paper lantern out of old tea bags. So you kind of cut them into sheets, like rectangle sheets, and dry them out.
Mm.
And then we used Mod Podge. I always say it wrong. It's Mod Podge, but I always want to say like Mod
Mod
Podge.
Podge, me too.
And then we pressed and dried some flowers. And so you just glue them in between two of the tea bag sheets. And then we got these little wooden dowels that you use to like basically build like a little picture frame to support the
Cool.
panel. And then you just glue them on the sides, like all four. And you stick like a little battery operated tea light. So that way, when you stick it over, it kind of like glows
That's
like
so
kind of
pretty.
like entangled with the paper lanterns.
Yes, it's giving very tangled, especially with the flowers, because all the
Right.
flowers in her hair. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's so pretty. How long did that take?
Not long, surprisingly. I think obviously the setup before, because it was like we had to drink a lot of tea, because in order to make one, you need 8 tea bags.
Mm.
And so we both made one. And then obviously waiting for the flowers to dry. But this was really quickly. We try to do, we call it, so this comes from a TikTok that I saw a couple years ago. It was for like dating like your partner, but we live together. So we just do it as like
Yeah,
sister dates. But you
cute.
do like an inside and outside the home activity every month. So, and you swap who plans it. So this month, my sister Jacqueline planned the outside activity, and then I did the inside. So the inside activity was the paper lanterns.
Oh, I love that. I might actually steal
Yeah,
that idea. That's such a good way to
you
do that.
should.
And then you just flip flop.
Yeah, and it's just fun, and like you get to just try because it's a different activity every month, and so it's just kind of a way to do new things and different activities and events. And yeah, we did it. We started it last year. We made it all the way through, and then we decided, well, this is fun. Let's do it again next year.
Yeah, I love that. It's funny because that kind of connects with mine in that
Ooh.
mine is tea.
Perfect.
So I was talking to Cami, who is somebody I first connected through Instagram, but
Mm-hmm.
we just kind of chat at this point.
Love
And
it.
she suggested this brand. It is a British brand. So
Ooh.
that is one of the things that was like a little bit tricky about it. And it literally got here last night. So the tea that
Oh,
I
wow.
have been drinking tea if you were watching the video, and that's the tea that I've had. And it's the only, I will say one, it's fantastic, but two, it's
Love
the
it.
only cup that I've had of it because I didn't have time for any others. But
Mm-hmm.
it's called Bird and Blend.
Ooh.
So
Yeah.
it's a rooibos breakfast cuppa.
I saw that. I was like, oh, that's so British.
I know, it's so cute. That's what I have in my teacup currently. And I got the loose leaves tea, so I just figured I would try it out and see what I liked, and then I'd buy like the big tins of it because they have multiple sizing of things. So I have the rooibos breakfast cuppa. I have apple strudel. It's just like a little
Ooh.
paper bag for
Mm-hmm.
the loose leaf, but then again, I'm gonna get the tins. I so far 1 for 1, 100% loving it. And
Perfect.
strawberry lemonade, which I think would be great
Ooh.
cold too.
Yes, I was gonna say that's a not good iced tea. Very also like springtime
Yes, that's what I was
drink.
thinking. And they were very sweet and gave 2 trials in it, which is a black tea. It's their cream egg. It's just like one little
Interesting.
tea bag, but I feel
Also
like
very British.
you should try it. I know. I love it. It says the ultimate vegan chocolate Easter tea. And then
Love it.
rhubarb and custard, which I'm grateful that they sent because
Interesting.
that was another one I was gonna maybe do, but I didn't. So everything so far has been upside. The only downside is I live in America and buying from England took quite a bit to get to me, but honestly, not that
Yeah.
bad. It was
That's
just
good.
more so like just any international shipping is always a little bit rough,
Yeah.
but so far so good. And it's really fun to like, I don't know. British people are known for their tea, and so far they are killing the game in my one tea
Yep.
that I have had. And it's fun because I have the loose leaf. I have that over here because I was literally brewing it before we started talking. So it's this. So
Ooh.
I think this is Tiva technically or something like that, but it basically is like you put the water in the top and then you put the
Okay.
loose leaf and then you put it over your cup and it just drains through the bottom.
Oh, is it kind
So
of like a French press?
it is. It's kind of, it looks very French press, but
Mm-hmm.
it drains at the bottom, which I like because then all you have to do is put it over your tea and then you just rest it on here and it
Oh, cute.
kicks this up and
Cute.
then all the tea drains in. So it's really like
Perfect.
hands off, which is nice
Easy.
for a loose leaf because
Mm-hmm.
I have the little like kind of like ball looking thing that you
Like the,
clamp.
yeah, that
hmm
canister
hmm
type thing. Yeah, I
But
know.
this just is a little bit cleaner. And then I know I'm not going to accidentally like eat one of the loose leaf teas.
Yeah, the leaves.
Yeah, one
Oh,
of the leaves.
good. Well,
That has,
that, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's my 2%.
Love it. And that is such a good transition for our topic next week that we're
Yeah.
going to be talking about. It's very British, so I'm very excited because we don't tell each other our 2% until we get on here. So you were very savvy to get us ready for next week. You can find us on Instagram at Blanket Fort Files and be sure to follow us wherever you listen to your podcast. We'd appreciate your feedback, so leave us a review and join us next week in the Blanket Fort where we'll discuss the coziness of our favorite British hobby TV shows.
I feel like that's gonna be so fun. I've been watching so many episodes of it in preparation.
Oh, I know. Ugh, the vibes, the cozy. Oh, it's going to be really good.